Zak Marks is the founder of Kitt Medical, a trailblazing allergy treatment startup that distributes anaphylaxis kits for situations that are life-threateningly urgent. As an adrenaline pain carrier himself, Zak founded Kitt Medical shortly after completing a degree in industrial design. And when he took his business onto Dragon's Den in 2025, his kits had already been installed in places like Edinburgh Zoo and Thorpe Park. Most importantly, at the time of recording this interview, Kitt Medical's kits have been used to save a total of 11 lives. Here we chat to Zak about the friendships and connections that have helped him on his founder journey, the reality of putting such a personal health story out into the public eye, and how you can convince big businesses that your startup is the legitimate solution to a real problem. This is Ember Startups Meet Zak Marks. Thank you for watching. Cool. So first of all, congratulations on your success getting an investment on Dragon's Den from not just one, but two different dragons. How have Deborah and Stephen been of help to you since signing the deal?
Gosh, yeah, it's been only about a month since we actually signed, because the episode was filmed last year, and then we wait for that to come out, and then pretty much are doing due diligence all around that until then. But since signing, what they were really great with is helping amplify the message once we went on the den, like the actual episodes themselves. Stephen's LinkedIn post, just one of those, got us a huge amount of engagement and interest, and Deborah's Instagram as well. But I think in general, they've both offered a lot of advice and support. We've had multiple hours with Stephen and his team. We've had a good session with Deborah, and they're both planning a lot of introductions for us with major companies. The main thing to think about, though, is that it's a long-term play. Like, it's a relationship we want to build with them, they want to build with us. It's not a flash in the pan moment.
Nice. And they've got such different expertises, I think, as well. They're such different sort of areas of skill. You must be getting such a broad range of insight from them as well.
Yeah, and different they've got different backgrounds, different history, different interests, different team layouts, different ways of working. It's a very good balance.
Nice. Yeah, well, speaking about long-term plays, sort of looking ahead, what do you think success looks like to you personally? And has this vision kind of changed over time?
It's probably not changed over time. It definitely will in the future. We're only 27, so still got a long way to go. But with the current plan, I think personally, it's a degree of agency is always a word I like to think about. Having control over my own destiny. I mean, I really went straight into freelance web design out of uni, so I wanted to do my own thing, and I struggled with clients telling me what to do. And so then being able to run the business, build the team, build a culture that I'd want to be in and that we can all thrive in is super important to me. So that's a great margin of success for me, just having control and letting other people have success. But in terms of personal fulfillment, I think the actual concept of Kitt being out there in every single place that I go to, that my friends go to, that my families go to, that it's used regularly to save lives, that the training is used regularly to be impactful, and that we hopefully eventually get a sort of a national presence, whether that's in politics, whether that's in the agenda for allergy, whether that's being spotlighted by the Prime Minister or whatever it is. There's levels to it, and eventually international as well.
When you founded Kitt Medical, it was shortly after graduating. How have links and people from your earlier life been instrumental in your founder journey?
I've always said that everything good that's happened about Kitt has been organic relationships, honestly. Whether it's our lawyers deciding they just really liked us and wanted to give us, like really good rates and a lot of advice, or the really early days, or whether it was an old school friend who knew someone who became an advisor, who then knew someone who became our insurance broker, who then became an investor, who then knew someone else who became an advisor, who then knew someone else who became an investor. And we essentially had this chain of, I know, I can't even track it, but that was.
Let me write that down quick. I need to draw a flow chart or something.
I could genuinely do a flow chart for you, but we met this guy who was a friend of a friend who was running a hardware startup. And because he had connections here and here, we then went there, and the compound growth of that one relationship into 6 or 7 pivotal business building relationships we've had has been amazing. So, I mean, this business grew out of COVID. It grew out of speaking to other entrepreneurs, learning about the space, really spending the time in the problem. That sort of stuff is game changing to the business.
Yeah, and I mean, even as early as, from my understanding, was James a friend of a friend?
Mm-hmm.
You knew him through someone else. So how
Yeah,
did that
so
kind of come about?
I mean, Johnny's been my best mate for, well, he lives down the road from me, go to the same school, that sort of stuff. He was working in sales, and his mate James was on furlough essentially at the time. We got connected just because we were sort of seeing the same people at the same time. And then he started taking interest in what I was doing. When he had some free time, started to really help because his sister had allergies, and he just liked the idea of startups and helping people. I was working in edtech sales, so knew about schools, which was going to be our main market. And I think what was really important was that initially we were just so clear on the fact that we fit together very well. Like, I was product, marketing, design, problem. He was sort of ops and sales, and keen to get into financials as well. So there was a great deal of connection there. And then Johnny ended up being our head of growth, joining about a year later as well. So, and then Simon, my old school friend, is our part-time CTO. So it's all a good relationship.
Yeah, and that must be such a big boost of confidence as well, back in the early stages when you're attracting people already. Back when, I mean, you know, from my understanding, you were still Anna. Back when James was joining, you weren't even Kitt Medical yet, and even then you had people, like you said, motivated by what you were doing and willing to get on board.
Yeah. I mean, the biggest support has always been my dad. He was the one that gave the first couple £1,000 to help us get set up on company's house, and nice. You know, supported me when I was working in my bedroom alone. He originally came up with the idea of the name of Kitt, which is hilarious to think about, and we were like, no, that's a shit name. Now, here we are. And yeah, it's always been friends and family as the biggest supporters, and then building a network from that of advisors, mentors, investors. And to be honest, I see LinkedIn as like a social network in the best possible way. That it is full of so much crap, but the way I feel like I've utilized it has been that really good compounding organic growth of finding other really bought in customers, really bought in investors, amazing podcasts or things I want to connect with. So yeah.
Kitt Medical is obviously really linked to your own personal story. And we hear a lot in the kind of the business sphere, very kind of LinkedIn kind of thing, about founder-led brands and the power of a founder being the face of a brand and driving a brand. How do you kind of manage getting your own a personal story that's so linked to your own kind of childhood and early life and putting that out into the public eye?
It certainly means that I'm constantly putting the problem first. We are a solution orientated business. Money is a factor of the result of what we do. You know, we are doing it because we want to solve the problem, and I think that's the most important thing. And so every decision we make is about making sure schools and qualifying businesses get the best service, the best availability of adrenaline, the best availability of training, the most straightforward software to actually use it, the marketing, the communication on the website. There's no fluff. Like, it is to communicate the problem and solve that. And I think with a lot of what I do, living with allergies day in, day out, it means I'm constantly sort of rediscovering the problem almost. Like, I can go out to dinner and have a particularly bad experience, and it can give me a great LinkedIn post that can reignite a conversation online that can lead to, you know, greater connections and maybe new customers as well. But what it does do is mean that the particularly emotional moments, whether it's we'd save another life. We had our 11th incident the other day, and that was actually due to an airborne chickpea allergy, and I have chickpea allergies, and most people don't even know it's a thing. So those sorts of moments of like realignment as well. I'm someone that I can get bored quite easily, and I sort of need to like hyperfixate, and what it does is it reminds me again of that purpose. Living in it, you can't really escape.
No, I mean, every startup has, you know, measures of progress and improvement. You know, for us, it's just seeing the graph on Google Analytics going up. But it, you know, it's another level of you hearing about these stories. And like you said, the airborne chickpea one, I remember seeing on your LinkedIn a terrible airline experience you had with just a really somebody who just didn't care at all on an aeroplane, which is terrible to hear. But being able to link your own personal story with these other people you're helping must be so incredibly motivating and fulfilling.
Yeah. So, I think part of that experience, related to Dragon's Den, because there were people reaching out being like, I've never seen allergy on this level before. I've never seen it recognized on this stage before. And I know how much it means to them because it means that much to me. Like, it's great. It's great. I'm not an other. I'm one of them.
Yeah, absolutely. So now thinking about the broader industry that you're part of, are there any kind of trends that you see in the industry that you think are really going to take off in the next 10 years?
It's definitely interesting, movement in adrenaline in general, whether it's with nasal, whether it's with sublingual, whether it's with different adrenaline pens in different countries. Always mindful of what's happening with that market, and anything that needs to be done in terms of what people want to use and what people are ready to use, we will adapt to with Kitt. I think that's like an obvious one. Also, from a personal level, as someone carrying adrenaline pens that's touch wood never had to use them, I will adapt to taking on nasal adrenaline, maybe, but I'm not 100%. It's an interesting one. I feel like I really need to level my confidence with that one. And then I think there is a lot going on with awareness and training, like the conversation, the allergen management in food. I mean, we're having conversations with some of the largest companies in the world currently about kits, specifically off the back of Dragon's Den. And they're aware of how big a problem allergy is before we get there. They're just looking for that solution. And that's what's incredibly exciting to us, because there are charities building training and whatnot, but there's no one doing what we're doing.
What do you think are the best, you've touched on this a little bit already, but what are the best and worst bits of working in the allergy industry, do you think?
I mean, it can be relentless, obviously. I think that is the negative side of it, like working in allergy, living with allergy, dealing with life-threatening scenarios, dealing with very serious triggering topics for a lot of people. My social media is constantly blowing up, both personally and on the Kitt pages, with people telling me horrendous stories. Like, there is nothing worse than hearing about a child dying at school. It is the single worst thing about being in the allergy space, like being so close to that sort of stuff. I don't know how people like Helen Blythe then take that and turn her son's tragedy into action. It is one of the strongest things I think I've ever seen. And from my point of view, all I'm trying to do is, sometimes I feel like a fraud because I've never had anaphylaxis. I've never needed to use my pens. Like, I've touched on this before about recently getting allergy tests. I'm like, do I even still have allergies? And of course I know I have allergies, and the tests show that I do and whatnot. And I say it every single day. I probably say it more than most people I know with allergies whenever I go out. But it's that feeling of like, other people have got it worse than me. Am I a poser? Or am I just someone that is doing the best I can with the problem that I have and able to deal with that solution?
Was that a concern you had going into Dragon's Den on such a wider public stage? You'd get people going, well, who's this guy? He's never been in this situation. What is he going on about? Was that a conscious thing? Yeah.
I also thought people might, we sort of tried to do some rationalization pre-Dragon's Den, and we were like, maybe we'll get 25% hate and negativity, and the rest will be like sort of middle positivity, and then there'll be like 10% of like overwhelming incredible stuff. But in reality, it was literally like 99% fantastic and 1% negativity. It was better than we could have imagined. And people will always pick up on anything, whether it's young founders, whether it's, we've had privileged starts. I'm absolutely not ignoring that. We've also had people come to us say, you're profiting off medication, and that, why aren't we a charity? Why aren't we a non-profit? There's a million things you can point at and poke at, and those are all things I do worry about. Should I be this? Should I be that? But anytime I actually air those thoughts, I realize how stupid they are, because we're doing what we're doing, making the impact we're making, and these are decisions we've chose in order to get us to where we are. And I have to feel comfortable and confident with that.
Do you feel the need to kind of answer those doubt or those people, those comments coming in? Do you feel like that kind of justifies them when people are picking apart your business? Do you shrug them off, or do you think you need to give them a response?
I know that they're the 1%, maybe even the 0.5%. As humans, we have a negativity bias. So I'm going to remember those comments over the positive ones. Obviously, I know that as well. In reality, I try and be like, I don't need to answer them. They are such small voices. I don't need to prove to anyone anything. You know, the proof is in the pudding. It shows the impact we're having with the choices we made, like I said. So people are more than happy to purchase the kits. They're being used in a million and one. Like when we started, we thought, okay, it's going to be kids with nut allergies forgetting their pens, and that's what's going to be the instance. And then we've literally had 11 incidents where kits have been used, and every single one has been different. Like every single one. We've had exercise-induced anaphylaxis, we've had bee sting, we've had nut bar, we've had chickpea airborne allergy, we've had ginger beer, idiopathic, cofactors occur. Like every single use case has been different. And that's mind-blowing to me that it's proven itself time and time again that this is the solution to the problem.
And you mentioned before about getting political recognition for the cause that you're doing. And while I was researching the article, I thought it was interesting and also frustrating finding out that there's a lot of legislation problems with getting the kits to charities, to as many people as possible. And that also it was one of the reasons why you went to schools, because it was just one of the institutions that you could actually get the kits out to. Are you seeing, maybe after the Dragon's Den kind of awareness, are you seeing more progress in that more legislative sort of domain?
It's a complicated space.
Yeah.
We're still getting numerous large organizations come to us and say what you're doing is illegal.
Wow.
Like there are people that genuinely think what we're doing is totally non-practice, illegal, impossible, like large companies, large practices. And then on the flip side, we have equally large companies and organizations saying, this is fantastic, you've proven everything. Our insurers, health and safety auditors, occupational health practitioners, they've all dove into this and found that it's perfectly legal and safe. You guys have got all the qualifications. And of course, this is a no-brainer, we'll buy it. And so it's unbelievable that you've got such polar understanding from incredibly well-educated people. So in terms of like legislative change, I think we're so far from that we're just having to prove what already exists, let alone change something beyond that.
For you personally, what would you say are some of your biggest strengths and maybe a couple of weaknesses as well? Always an on-the-spot question, isn't it, this one?
Yeah, and you don't want to sound like an egotistical narcissist, but
you go ahead.
Comes to the territory.
Yeah.
I feel everything in high strength. So whether it's an emotive win or emotive loss, that's going to affect me deeply. Is good strength and quite a negative to have. I think that's one that always comes to mind. I'm very proud of my creativity. I think that's something that underlines the business, underlines the website, underlines the idea. Whether it's public speaking, it's anything really that I'm really get behind. And just personable traits, working with people, finding good people, bring them into the team, building a culture and a mission that people want to get behind.
Are there any mentors or agencies specifically that have been a big help to you?
Mentors wise, I mean, some of my closest mentors or some of my most impactful mentors are people that have just been there from the beginning, that are like friends. One of them is my mate Jake, who's just a phenomenal human being, incredibly creative and logical thinker, very rational, very supportive. Otherwise, I mean, people like Jamie Ezekiel, who's building a transparent face mask, incredibly passionate hardware founder, who's one of our greatest advisors. Our insurance broker, Alex Margolin, he's an amazing investor, partner, advisor, incredibly smart individual. Sherry White, founder of Think for the Future. She does, her business essentially puts mentors in schools for behavioral problems, and she's built it from the ground up and is now running an amazing team. She's essentially built our HR and our financials for the business. So
Wow.
yeah, I mean, there's so many people I can name that have been incredibly impactful. My dad, obviously. Yeah, I could go on.
And are these people, do you reach out to them? Do they get in touch with you once they hear about what you're doing? Is there kind of a balance?
I mean, it's like of those people I mentioned, it's almost like we met that guy Josh Cohen who makes the helmet New Lane, the folding bike helmet, who was a friend of a friend. He's also been incredibly important. He introduced us to Alex, who introduced us to Johnny Plain, who's another investor and also been on Dragon's Den, who's an advisor, who introduced us to Sherry, and somewhere along the line, Jamie was in that line as well. So this was all that line of phenomenal people. Jake's totally separate. He's a lifelong sort of family friend of mine. But yeah, it's just about doing something good in a good way that people actually want to get behind and offer you advice and support for, you know?
Definitely. And reading about all these different startups, it's just very heartening over and over and again to see how people are just willing to help when they hear about something that they think sounds good. They'll just help and then tell someone else about it and they'll help. This whole chain of just kind of voluntary getting involved. It's great to see. And one last question, a good one to end it on, I think. If you did it all again, would you do anything differently?
And probably, so I think we've done about 4 investment rounds now, if you count Dragon's Den. I'd probably try and raise less rounds with each round having a larger amount. So you sort of make it a bit more streamlined. But at the end of the day, when you're on the ground learning and trying to raise to prove the next thing, you don't really, you can't have that foresight. Otherwise, very happy.